twin terror attacks in Jerusalem. The bombings killed a 16-year-old student and injured 20 more Israelis.
In some Palestinian towns, candy was given out to celebrate. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, these attacks could spark a new wave of terror.
The two bombs exploded early in the morning during rush hour, when many Israelis were on their way to work or school. The first explosion took place here at this bus stop, just at the entrance of Jerusalem. The bomb apparently being left in a bag, which reminded many of what happened numerous times during the Second Intifada. During that campaign of Palestinian terror from 2000 to 2004, hundreds of terror attacks killed more than 1,000 Israelis, many of them on buses or in public places. Those attacks subsided, but in 2022, a series of Palestinian attacks have killed 29 people in Israel and Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. These two attacks demonstrated a significant measure of planning and coordination.
There's a connection between the events. It's clear that it's something more complex. This was not something done by inspiration. This is not somebody who decided one morning to carry out an attack.
Itamar Ben-gvir, who could become Israel's next public security minister, visited the scene and said Israel needs to restore its deterrence.
I say it in a clear way. We must exact the price from terror, go back to targeted assassinations to stop the parties in the security prisons, to stop the Palestinian Authority supporting terrorism payments. This can be done. I'm not talking politics, but we have to establish a government as fast as possible.
In Palestinian towns, some gave out candy to celebrate the bombings. So far, no group has claimed responsibility. But a Hamas spokesman welcomed the terror attacks and said the Zionist enemy is paying for its aggression and crimes against our people and the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount.
Well, Chris Mitchell now joins us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, are people concerned about a major organized wave of violence, another intifada?
They are, Gordon, with the wave of terror attacks since Ramadan earlier this year. That was back in May. There's a fear this will only intensify. People remember what it was like during the Second Intifada. Earlier today, when I was at the scene of the bus bombing, I talked to an Israeli cameraman I've known for years, and he works for one of the major news organizations. And he told me when he walked to the scene of the bombing, he walked very slowly because he suffers from PTSD, and he didn't want to relive those smells and sights and memories from the Second Intifada. And I think many Israelis right now fear that kind of campaign will return. Also, as noted, this was a well-planned, a coordinated attack. And one Israeli official says Israel has a ticking time bomb on its hands right now. The question remains, Gordon, whether or not the Palestinians have the kind of resources to launch another campaign, the Second Intifada, like it did back in 2000 to 2004.
Well, what do you mean by that ticking time bomb? What are you talking about? Are these forces within the Palestinian Authority?
They are forces within they're Palestinians, not necessarily in the Palestinian Authority. One of the officials said that this was the kind of terror attack, the coordination they hadn't seen in many years. And so I think that's kind of what they're thinking about right now when they talk about a ticking time bomb. There's many Palestinian groups, or several Palestinian groups, that are rising within Palestinian areas that really may not be connected to the Palestinian Authority or Hamas, and don't answer to any of these. And this could be part of what this official is talking about, a ticking time bomb of these kind of coordinated attacks they hadn't seen for many years.
Well, how do you expect the Israeli government to now respond? There was a real strong call from the mayor. What do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is going to do?
Well, you know, with the last election, Gordon, there was a really shift to the right. And I think the reason for that is a lot of people, a lot of Israelis, they felt unsafe. Some of these things was like the pay to slave for convicted terrorists. They would like to change the rules of engagement for soldiers in the West Bank. That's the incoming government. And that's why Israelis did elect this kind of government that's coming in right now, perhaps if they get the coalition together. It's an example, maybe, as the difference between the Lapid government is this particular example, Gordon. There was a checkpoint near Hebron, and despite protests by the main group in Judea and Samaria, the government went ahead and reopened that checkpoint for the first time in 20 years. And then just days later, there was a deadly terror attack at that checkpoint. This is what the Lapid government do. And some people think those moves were encouraged by the Biden administration. And it's unlikely the new government, if and when it gets formed, will yield to kind of that pressure from the State Department or the White House.
All right. Well, Chris, thanks for the report. And let me just remind you at home that all of your hearing in terms of boycott, divestment sanctions, all of the things coming out of the UN condemning Israel ignores the facts on the ground. The Palestinians don't want a second state. What they want is to drive Israel into the sea, and they want to use any means necessary. In their minds, when you set off bombs in Jerusalem and you kill a 16-year-old girl, that's a reason to celebrate and hand out candy. For anyone outside of that ideology, it's a day of mourning. Why in the world would you ever celebrate that? And why would the UN ever encourage that kind of behavior? Why would our State Department encourage that by saying, well, it's okay for us to continue to supply them with money, knowing full well the Palestinian Authority is going to make shaheed payments, martyr payments, so the people responsible for terror attacks actually get rewarded financially. Keep these things in mind when you hear all the negative news about Israel, that on the ground they have a dedicated enemy since 1948 has been trying to drive them into the sea. The old adage, the Arabs have never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity, should now be applied to the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian people, have never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity to have peace. They could have had it repeatedly, and they can still have it today. They don't want it. What they want is to drive Israel into the sea.